The flicker. Emily had always loved her old Victorian house on Willow Creek. The stained glass windows, the creaking floorboards, the scent of aged wood. It was charming, cozy, a place to build a life. Until the flickers started. 1. The shifting gaze. It began subtly, a shadow, a bit too deep, caught in the corner of her eye while she was folding laundry, a curtain swaying in a room with no open windows. Emily, ever the practical woman, blamed it on the old house settling, or perhaps the stress of her job as a graphic designer. But then came the flickers of movement, a figure, dark and indistinct, darting away just as she entered the living room. Whenever she turned, it was gone, leaving only the mundane arrangement of furniture. She began checking the locks twice, even though she knew she was alone. The house, once her sanctuary, now felt like 1,000 eyes were watching from the cracks in the walls. One evening, while watching TV, she felt an inexplicable chill. She glanced at the reflection in the darkened screen and saw it, a gaunt, elongated shadow standing directly behind her. Not a person, but a distortion of space itself, taller than any man, with arms that seemed to stretch to unnatural lengths. Before she could scream, it vanished, leaving Emily with a heart pounding like a trapped bird. 2. The mimicry. The phenomena grew bolder. Objects began to move. Keys would disappear from the hook and reappear on the mantel. Her favorite mug would be in the cupboard, only to be found shattered in the sink moments later, though she hadn't touched it. Emily started documenting. She set up a motion-activated camera in the living room, convinced she'd capture an intruder, or at the very least, proof of her own sanity. The first few nights were empty, just her cat, Mittens, wandering through the frame. But on the 4th night, the footage showed something impossible. Mittens was staring intently at an empty space near the fireplace. Then the cat slowly, deliberately turned its head 180 degrees, looking directly backward while its body remained motionless. It stayed like that for a full minute before snapping back to normal and walking away. Cold dread crept up Emily's spine. Mittens wasn't just seeing things, it was reacting to them. 3. The unseen guest. Emily no longer felt alone. She heard whispers, faint and indistinct, just beyond the edge of hearing. Sometimes a breath, cold and stale, would caress her ear in the quietest rooms. She started leaving the lights on, terrified of the darkness that seemed to harbor an unseen entity. One morning, she woke up to find something truly unsettling. Her phone, which she always kept on her nightstand, was lying on the pillow next to her head. The screen was on, displaying a photo she hadn't taken. It was a picture of her asleep, taken from a low angle right beside her bed. In the murky background, just at the edge of the frame, was a dark, blurry shape peering over her shoulder. It had no distinct features, just 2 tiny pinprick lights that looked like eyes. The revelation. Emily, consumed by fear and exhaustion, decided to sell the house. She called a real estate agent who suggested a professional appraisal. The appraiser, a jovial man named Mr. Henderson, arrived a few days later. As he walked through the house, taking notes, Emily followed him, desperate for reassurance. When they reached the living room, Mr. Henderson paused, looking at the ceiling. "Interesting. The previous owners built a little nook here," he said, pointing to a small, almost invisible hatch in the ceiling, hidden by paint and shadow. Emily had lived there for 5 years and never seen it. It was tiny, no bigger than a dog door. Mr. Henderson retrieved a ladder and opened it. Inside was a cramped, dusty space, barely large enough for a person to crawl into. As the light from the room spilled into the hole, Emily gasped. On the wooden beam inside were dozens of crude, childlike drawings. They depicted a tall, thin figure with impossibly long arms, and in every drawing, that figure was watching a small person in a bed. Mr. Henderson shrugged. Kids, I guess, probably hid their toys up here. But as he closed the hatch, Emily saw something he didn't. On the inside of the hatch cover, right above where Mr. Henderson's head had just been, was a fresh carving, the same tall, thin figure, and it was facing outward, its arms reaching down as if to embrace someone. Beneath it, scrawled in faint, jagged letters, were 3 words: "I'm still here." Suddenly, a loud, deliberate thud echoed from the ceiling directly above them. Emily looked up at the hatch, then at Mr. Henderson, whose back was turned. The air grew ice cold. Emily realized then it wasn't in the walls, it was above them, and it had been watching her from that hidden perch every single night.